Welcome to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Heartland Crime Stoppers is a community-based program designed to help law enforcement solve crimes by providing a way for the community to phone in tips anonymously and receive cash rewards of up to $3,000 for information that leads to an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs. Heartland Crime Stoppers is funded through the State of Florida Office of the Attorney General Crime Stoppers Trust Fund and through donations from the community. Citizens and local businesses make Crime Stoppers work. The Lakeland Police Department K-9 unit began 33 years ago when Police Chief Lawrence Crowe supported Sergeant Ron Bowling Sr.'s vision to begin the first K-9 program in Polk County. In 1980, Sergeant Ron Bowling Sr. became the first certified police dog handler in Polk County. Currently, the Lakeland Police Department K-9 unit consists of 1 sergeant, 8 officers, and of course their beloved K-9 partners. Every handler has a working dog in both patrol and narcotic certification through FDLE and the United States Police K-9 Association. The K-9 unit has repeatedly won the 4-man team overall competition in the regional and national levels. Join us in the studio is Sergeant Aaron Peterman from the Lakeland Police Department. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now that goes back a long time, 1980. I had the opportunity to actually be working with Ron. Can you imagine not having that type of support, that tool in law enforcement, not having a K-9?
No, I couldn't. It's just the dogs and the teams themselves are invaluable. You know, a well-trained and well-deployed K-9 team is a force multiplier. You think about it, that dog can smell some 250 times better than a human, and it could probably do the work to 5 to 10 officers, you know, versus searching a building or searching a car for illegal contraband.
It's very interesting. I remember back in the early days, I was trying to help lead tracks, you know, for Ron and different dogs, and thought I was being smart and going over and under stuff. And of course, the dogs were watching me the whole time, so it just came right at me that it's amazing how agile and how smart these animals really are.
And that's part of the reason we use them. You know, they're built and bred for this. You know, the athleticism that they have, the toughness, the sociability. They can be around you on that track and still look for, you know, a quote-unquote bad guy or bad gal. So,
and it's really interesting. I really believe, because I have seen this, they actually start to recognize, I think, the uniforms in many cases.
I think they do. It's a little bit different with every dog, but in my experience, the officers and the people around them almost become part of the pack. You know, nowadays when we go on a track, we may take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people with us, or if it's a high-risk track, you know, like my dog deploys with SWAT, so he's used to 10 or 15 guys around him with all the equipment, and that just becomes part of the picture for the animal, and he is like, you know, this is the pack. These guys are with me, they take me to do fun stuff.
Yeah. Now it's interesting, now the dog you have now, Blizzard, interesting story, we'll get to that in a minute, but he is not a shepherd and he is not a Malinois. He is half Malinois and half shepherd. That's kind of an unusual mix.
Correct. He's the best of both worlds. What we're finding now is all of our dogs, or most of them, are imported from overseas, Europe mainly, and the breeders and the vendors now are trying to mix the German Shepherd and the Malinois to essentially get the best of both worlds. You know, the tenacity, the athleticism of the Malinois, and the aptitude of a German Shepherd in general terms.
Yeah, because doesn't the Malinois have a little bit more bite pressure? Is that,
no, it's hard to say. Actually, the Malinois have smaller heads and smaller jaws. So if you looked at the muscle structure of a true Malinois, it's probably less bite pressure, actually.
Now, your dog Blizzard, we talked about it, you know, before we started taping today, but it's an interesting story how he got his name. Can you share that with us?
Yes. Blizzard, the money for Blizzard in 2016 was actually donated by a family at our police department. They gave us $10,500 for the dog. That's the going rate right now for a lot of dogs, $8,000 to $10,000. They said we have one stipulation. It's in honor of a mother-in-law that had passed, and her favorite thing was to get Blizzards at Dairy Queen. So I said, you know what? I'll be glad to accept that, and hence we have Blizzard. And the name is very befitting, I can tell you.
Yeah. Now you said because basically a lot of times when he gets working, he's just having so much fun. It's just like a blizzard.
Oh, he does look like a blizzard. He'll get to circling, searching around, casting out, looking for things to do. And I said, you know what? The Lord works in mysterious ways. This name is actually for him.
That's really good. Now, what do you look for as you pick these dogs up? I think you have videos they send, if I remember correctly. But what do you look for when you are choosing and buying a dog?
That's a good question, because it's one of the biggest equations to a successful unit is the proper selection of a dog and the proper selection of a handler, and then the pairing of the two. So when we go to look for a dog, you know, this day and age, we got to be liability conscious. We got to make sure that the citizens get the best product. So the first thing we do when we get to a vendor, and the vendor are the individuals or the businesses that import the dogs from Europe or wherever in the world that the animal's from. The first thing we do is we get in a circle. We have no stimulation, no toys, no noises, and we just bring the dog out on leash. And we just walk him around the circle of us and see how the dog reacts to us. Does he come up to us and greet us? Is he aggressive? Is he social? Is he antisocial? And what we're looking for is confidence and sociability. Those are two, in my opinion, two of the most important factors. He's got to be able to work around people, he's got to be confident around people. So we see, can we pet him? Can we touch his ears? Can we touch his tail? You know, some dogs, they let you pet them, they lean on you. Some dogs just don't care to be petted. That's not bad neither, as long as they're not showing any aggression. A lot of these dogs, when we see them in that type of environment, they come out just looking for something to do. Hey, do you have a ball? Do you have a toy? What's going on? Let's get to work. That's kind of what I like to see, as long as there's no outward aggression.
Yeah, because that's so important, because it's, you know, the dogs, you can train them in many aspects, you know, and you can motivate in many aspects, but they have to have that basic drive and, like you say, that sociability to a certain degree, because it's that crystal ball can sometimes be a little hazy.
Oh yes, and the dogs are like people. They have different personalities, you know, genetically, they're predispositioned to do certain things. So, and before we could have a dog with the highest drives and instincts to want to chase the ball, hunt for the ball, go after this, go after that. But if we can't get him around people, it does us no good. Mm-hmm. So we want an animal that's social. He's got to be able to deal with the public. We do a lot of canine demos, have them around kids. You know, we try to build those bridges with the community. So that's numero uno for us. And then the confidence of being around people as well. Can the dog, has he been exposed to people touching them and petting them and stuff? Once that's passed, then we go into the next test.
Now, y'all recently had the regional trials here in Lakeland, and I seem to recall that y'all had a pretty good team set up for that. Yes, we did well this year. Yeah, you took the top two-man teams, or top four-man teams, excuse me, and top dog, and that's not something that is just handed to you. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's a testament to the unit, you know, to the training of the unit, and you know, to the lineage that Ron Bowling built himself back in 1980. He did all that on his own. Sheriff Crow said, okay, I hear you, Ron, but I can't support you. So Ron goes out and procures a dog, outfits his truck, and that just goes into the pride and loyalty that the canine unit has. You know, and Ron set the bar very high back then and won 5 state titles himself. Now that's a lot to live up to, and I hope we're carrying it on nowadays. It seems like we're doing very well. We got a lot of good trainers. You had Charlie Dallas in the day, Jose Bosque, Jeff Barrett, who's still around. Mm-hmm. He's some 29 years behind a leash. He's getting ready to retire this year, so I've learned a lot from him. But all those guys and the support we've had is what helps us to win these competitions, or certifications, I should say. Mm-hmm. They assign points to it, and it turns into a competition. And that really helps us provide a better product for the community. We have dogs that listen, and that's very important, obedience.
Yeah, we have some video, and it's just amazing to watch the dogs work in. And everybody loves seeing with the K9 unit. Well, I say the bad guys probably don't love them when they're chasing them, but when you get out in the community, people are always, you know, just so enamored with the dogs and the things that they do, and the control and the commands that you can give them, not only voice commands, but hand commands. And of course, people that have animals are amazed that the dog can learn that, but this is something that if they work hard enough, an everyday citizen can train their dog in many of the same aspects that you do, as far as being able to heel and stay, and I mean, it's just work that anybody can do, but in law enforcement it's just that much more important.
Sure, we have no magic here. It's all out there. It's the techniques we use is stuff we've learned, some stuff we've created, we've modified, and anybody can do it.
Mm-hmm. But it's just so important, like I say, in law enforcement, because those are they're actually now considered police officers under state statute, are they not?
Not yet. We're trying to get there. They're still primarily, and this is general terms, considered a tool. Even though they are a living, breathing animal, there's actually a bill on the House floor now that Representative Josie Tomkow is helping push through the House, and then I forget the other half of that. So I think it's a representative from Jacksonville where a canine was just killed. Well, they're trying to get the penalties enhanced for killing the dog, or killing a police service dog. Hopefully one day we can get it recognized as a police officer. I think the animals deserve that, in my opinion. You know, the job that they do for us.
Absolutely. I know that there are enhanced penalties, you know, for harming a police dog like that. That has been enhanced, because back in the day there wasn't that era, and it just shows the importance of what you as a canine handler does.
Yes, yes.
Aaron, can you stick around for a few minutes?
Be glad to.
Crime Stoppers provides a way for local law enforcement to receive information on crimes while keeping the people providing that information anonymous. These efforts increase tips, which in turn solve more crimes and identify criminals in our community. Here's a look at some of our most recent cases.
The Haines City Police Department is looking for the public's help in identifying 2 suspects who held up employees and customers while also firing a shot at a Family Dollar on March 14th. The robbery took place at about 10 p.m. at 1683 East Hinson Avenue. 2 men, covered from head to toe, all in black and gloved, are accused of taking an unspecified amount of money from the registers. They were unsuccessful in an attempt to access the business's safe. During the course of the robbery, one of the suspects fired a shot from a handgun into the ceiling of the location. On March 26th, the suspect entered the Circle K located at 4415 Old Kathleen Road and removed 6 cases of Zephyr Hill spring water from the front of the store, loaded them into his Chrysler minivan, and left the area without paying. The suspect, pictured, is described as approximately 40 to 50 years old, is approximately 6 feet tall. The suspect was last seen driving a silver Chrysler minivan, possibly a Town and Country. On March 19th, the subject pictured entered the Circle K located at 2425 West Memorial Boulevard and removed 2 cases of natural light. The subject then left the store without paying for the beer and got into an older model sedan, leaving the area. The suspect pictured is described as between 40 and 50 years old with short dreadlocks. The subject was also described to be wearing glasses at the time of the incident. The Plant City Police Department is requesting the community's assistance regarding the identities of 3 individuals pictured in an active investigation. The subjects were able to pass multiple counterfeit bills. On March 21st, the subject pictured entered the CVS located at 6105 Highway 98 North in Lakeland. He removed an electric shaver and 2 flash drives. The suspect concealed the items and exited the store, passing all points of purchase. The suspect pictured described as a white male wearing a gray t-shirt, blue jeans, black and white ball cap, and a black backpack. The subject was last seen leaving the area on a beach cruiser style bike. On March 18th, an unknown suspect committed several frauds in the city of Bartow. Security footage was obtained from one of the locations in Bartow of the suspect. The suspect is a white male with short brown hair and a full beard. The suspect was wearing long-sleeved, blue plaid button-down shirt, green camouflage cargo shorts, and dark-colored boots. On Wednesday, March 13th, at around 1:50 in the morning, this suspect entered several unlocked cars in the Talon Crest and Mayfair neighborhoods in Highland City. Thanks to a great Crime Stopper tip, the burglar of the Cricket Wireless store at 3346 Rifle Range Road in Juanita has been identified and arrested. His name is Aldair Gonzalez of Juanita. Aldair's truck still had evidence in it that links him to the crime. If you have any information on any of the cases you've just seen or any information on an unsolved crime, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. The toll-free tip line is 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 8477. You can also leave an anonymous web tip by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and click on the Give a Tip tab, or by going to www.p3tips.com. Don't forget, you can download our free P3 Tips app on your smart device. Whichever way you choose to leave a tip, you will remain 100% anonymous. If your tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Sergeant Aaron Peterman began his law enforcement career in 1997 at the Polk County Sheriff's Office here in Bartow. He held assignments in patrol, the tactical drug and narcotics units before being employed at the Lakeland Police Department in 2000. He currently is a supervisor of Lakeland's 8-dog unit and a handler of the Patrol Explosives K-9. Aaron, thank you for sticking around.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Now, how did Lakeland manage to steal you away from the sheriff's office? I know they're awfully glad that Lakeland is to have you there. So.
Yeah, that was so long ago, but I was a young guy then, probably 24, 25. I think back to how premier the reputation was at Lakeland Police Department. You know, that's where you go, you make a little bit more money, and that's just, you know, it just was the premier agency, the reputation that it had back then, and I always wanted to be with the best in my eyes.
Now, you didn't obviously start over at Lakeland and in the K-9 unit or as a supervisor of the K-9 unit. There was a lot of steps and that you had to do your time and grade. Absolutely.
The K-9 unit, even the reputation back then was one of the reasons I wanted to come and be part of SWAT and K-9 at LPD, but you had to cut your teeth in patrol. Especially the K-9 position was very coveted. There wasn't even any openings, I think, when I started for probably 6-7 years. There's no turnover. Back then there was maybe 8, 9, 10 dogs. We had a couple single-purpose drug dogs back then, but there were just no openings. So I basically went to patrol and started doing some other things to make a name for myself, going to street crimes and getting on SWAT. And my first love really was narcotics. I liked the excitement of it. I liked the varying places you got to go and things you got to do, and then K-9 caught my eye.
Well, it's so important, you know, as any young officer to get that well-rounded experience, as I've always been told that I always needed, you know, to know what you're doing, and then as you get a little more experience, then you can start specializing and really kind of know what you want to do in law enforcement.
Absolutely, it's a good point. I'm glad I had some building blocks before I got to K-9. You know, as you know, maturity and maturation sets in. I got a lot of tactical experience because working a dog can be very dangerous. You know, let's face it, when they call us, it's usually for a bad person, a very bad person. They're armed, they're fighting, they got bad charges. So you need tactics, you need good decision making, you got to be well-rounded. And I'm glad that I got the opportunity to do a lot of that stuff before being behind a leash.
Now, we were recently at some of the training that Lakeland did, not only with Lakeland, but you had officers from Lake Alfred and other agencies, which is really kind of neat. You can train together and you can all kind of support each other and help each other out, because just training by yourself is awfully hard and difficult, and it's nice to have that opportunity to train with other people and learn tips. They can critique you, you can critique others. But it was very, very interesting, and it's always amazing to watch the training that the dogs do. But as you mentioned, that has changed a lot over the years as well.
Oh, most certainly. It's like anything, dog training should evolve. We should get better at it as a society, as a unit, you know, as a handler and a trainer. When I first got into K-9, we used to use a lot of compulsion, they call it, where we compel a dog. We put a leash on them and we guide them through the leash. Now we use a lot of motivational techniques. It's much more fair to the dog. It creates a better communication, and it creates a willingness and desire for the dog to execute whatever you're teaching them. You know, a sit and a down, that could be mundane. I hate to use human terms for a dog, boring. But now when we put something behind it in the learning phases, they become so willing. That sit becomes so quick. That down becomes so quick. So yeah, we have to evolve. We have to get better at things.
And you basically, as you talked about, you know, referred to, your basic, you know, the way you train them is through rewards. Yes. You know, so it's a snack, or they play with a toy, and so the dog's really associate it with being fun.
Absolutely. The kind of the system that we've adopted now as a unit, and it's getting pretty prevalent in a lot of places. I'm seeing it more and more. Is basically we teach everything based on a food reward. We buy a dog food that's a very large kibble, a good quality, and their meal is through working. So they earn it. So what you see is a better concentration of the dog because, you know, to get the food reward, they got to work. And you just see a willingness, you see a desire, they come to you, they engage. It helps with the bond between the handler and the dog. So yeah, the food reward is in the learning phases is what we're doing. It's a very good technique.
Now, as you are training a dog, I know that we talked, you were originally in the canine unit, and you trained your dog Knox at that time, was that correct?
Yes, I got Knox in 2011, I believe. It was my third dog.
Yeah. And then you got promoted, and so you had to leave the unit. You had to go back to do the street supervision and, again, get that rounded experience before you were able to get back into the canine unit. And when you got back in the unit, you had to give Knox up, and he was with another handler, and so you have a new dog. But how did the dog react to that? I guess that's what people would like to know.
Every dog's different. And every dog, we've seen some dogs, they say, you know, it's a one-owner dog and this and that. I can tell you these working dogs, and this kind of goes back to the sociability test we talked about. If the dog is social and confident, you know, obviously there is a bond between Knox and I, but Knox is a working dog. Knox loves to go to work, and I think in his mind that he doesn't care who's taking him to work. So when we had to transition him over, my family loved him to death, I loved him to death, but that dog was bred and trained to work, and that's what I wanted him to do. He was very young. I put a lot of work into him. I wanted him to go on. And the dog took to Chad Whitaker nicely. And Chad was actually in a school when I trained Knox. I trained him and his dog at the time, and it just happened to work out that the dog that Chad had to be retired, and then I got promoted, and we slid Knox over to Chad. So, but the sociability, the confidence that the animal had, it allowed him to go to Chad, and Chad just became the next vessel taking Knox to work every day, something that he really enjoys.
And of course, the dogs don't realize they're working. To them, it's fun.
It's very fun. It's all a game to them. We basically capitalize on their natural instincts. You know, the natural instinct to hunt for things, to chase things, to whether it's drug odor or a track for a bad guy or a missing endangered person. They don't realize the consequences of what could happen.
And of course, these dogs are many times cross-trained, you know, not only just for apprehension, you know, but for tracking, but of course for narcotics and even for explosive detection.
Absolutely. You know, that we talked about the force multiplier of the dog, you know, the public and the citizens of Polk County and the city of Lakeland. You get a lot of bang for your buck with these animals. They're doing two jobs. You know, we have a patrol side where they can go after people, find their evidence, track missing endangered. And not only can they do that, but now we can train them to find some type of illegal contraband. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work you're getting out of an animal. So whether it's the 4 drug odors or like Blizzard has 20 plus bomb odors. And we're constantly evolving that because, you know, bad guys evolve as well.
And that's something like us driving or qualifying on the range. You have to keep that skill active with the dogs to keep them, you know, up to date, and so they don't really forget it. You don't teach it once. It's basically an everyday thing that you're teaching the dog.
Our basic school is 880 hours. We have 480 of patrol and then roughly 400 of detection. That's the basic. The maintenance training is henceforth every day. And I tell guys and gals that want to come into K9, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. You're never off. You go home, you go to sleep for a couple hours. I pop up in bed and I'm thinking, well, I wonder if Blizzard's got to use their bathroom. Let me go outside and break them. You know, so it's a lifestyle, not only from the aspect of being at home with the animal, they're with us 24/7. The maintenance training, every day at Lakeland, we try to do something. Get the dog out of the car, do some obedience with patrol around, go out and throw some articles of evidence out, go do a training track. And then also, formally as a unit, we come together twice a month for 2 12-hour training days.
And again, it's just like I said, it's so important to keep those skills not only for the dog, but for the handler to be able to read the dog. And sometimes, if you have an experienced dog and a new handler, as you pair them up, it's almost more work to train the officer, I think, than to train the canine.
When I got into canine, I was a handler. I went through the school in 2006. Jeff Barrett, who was our senior trainer, is the one that taught the school. The guy taught me everything I know. Little did I know the dynamics of teaching a canine school. Not only are you training a dog, you're training a handler, and then you have to be able to train those two in concert. And I just looked back then, and I just tried to absorb as much as I could from Jeff. I learned a lot from him. You know, never end on a bad note, okay? Keep an open mind, right? Problem solving. He always taught me, don't just take do what I'm showing you, but try to figure out why that works, okay? A lot of this stuff we can recreate and say, hey, go do this and this with the dog, and mechanically it will happen. But what if there's an issue? Well, why didn't it work, or why does it work? And that's what I took from him. And to answer your question, it's a tough dynamic. You got to pair, you got to train the dog who don't know how to sit or down or heel or, you know, come off equipment or do this. But then you got to teach that person how to do that as well, to train it, and then how to marry it all together. It can be complicated at times.
I think it's complicated any time, to be quite honest. So it just goes to show all the work that you and your officers put into that. Now, when these dogs retire, they typically stay with the handler and their family. But that's an expense that y'all have to cover once the dog becomes your dog and doesn't go, quote, to work anymore. Now, I know that on May the 18th, you've got a fundraiser coming up to help with that. Tell us about that.
Yes, our Police Memorial Foundation at the Lakeland Police Department is actually, they do a 5K race every year to get monies for helping police officers that need assistance. Well, this year they've deemed our retired canines as potentially needing assistance. So they came to me with the idea, and I was like, let's go 100%. So a portion of the proceeds from the race are going to go towards our retired canine aftercare program to help once the dog is at home. They don't get forgotten. It's just the machine keeps turning, and you get a new dog, and well, you know, the retired dog is like us. They want to retire and live a good life. Well, they get ailments, you know, from years of running and jumping and stuff like that. So the money will really help our 4 vets in the aftercare program to help offset some of the costs that may come from any surgeries that may be needed or any type of treatments. Yeah,
because at that point they're not a dog; they're your child.
They're an even more integral part of the family. You know, they're not going to work every day. They see the new guy jump in the truck with dad. So we still got to exercise them. We got to maintain, because those drives and instincts don't go away. As you get older, they get a little less, they're a little more dampened, but they still want to do things. So the house becomes their work area per se, in my experience.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming and sharing about yourself and the canine training, and we wish you the best of luck.
It was an honor. Thank you very much.
For more information, you can check out the Lakeland Canine Unit at www.lakelandgov.net or follow them on Facebook at Lakeland PD. That's going to do it for this edition of Crime Stoppers. Keep in mind, Heartland Crime Stoppers is an organization that helps law enforcement solve crimes through anonymous tips and monetary rewards. It encourages a cooperative partnership between law enforcement, the media, and the community to ensure security and enhance our quality of life in Polk County. For more information, you can check us out on the web at heartlandcrimestoppers.com or follow us on Facebook at Heartland Crime Stoppers Florida. Until next time, keep in mind, it's a crime, and you can help make sure that they don't get away with it.